I have a devastating new fact about our southern neighbors here in the U.S., the country that borders us just to the south. And it's a real eye-opener. So apparently Mexico is now the second deadliest country in the world. Wow. All right, look at this. Cartel violence has turned Mexico into the second deadliest country in the world. Now, only Syria, embroiled in a baffling 6-year-long civil war, surpasses Mexico in conflict-related deaths. In 2016, Mexico's intentional homicide toll reached 23,000, a significant rise from 17,000 in 2015 and 15,000 in 2014, according to the International Institute for Strategic Studies annual Armed Conflict Survey. Okay, so just real quick before we continue, let me say that this is disputed. Mexico says, no, that's not true, and there's some other people who've said, well, we don't exactly agree with the methodology or what have you. Maybe there's a point there, or maybe not, I really don't know. But let me just say that even if they're right, the critics are right, and it's not true, even if they're like the 5th or 8th or 10th most deadly country in the world, yeah, I think that's still quite a story, don't you? Because it's technically not a war zone. Mexico's not at war with anybody. But that's just the point. It is a war zone. And why is it a war zone? The drug war. It is an actual war. So our drug policies have ravaged Mexico for decades and decades now. Guys, we know what happens with the drug war, just like we knew what happened with prohibition and alcohol. So the problem with that is you ban the product, you ban alcohol, then you're pushing it underground. The market goes underground. It becomes a black market. When it's a black market, the mafia are the ones who sell the product, and they have a monopoly, so they make all the money. When the mafia makes all the money, what do? They buy more guns, they have more thugs, and they solve disputes with violence and crime. Now, by the same token, it applies to marijuana and other drugs as well. A lot of people don't like acknowledging that, but it's the truth. So what happens is you have marijuana illegal, you're giving the drug cartels a monopoly. When the drug cartels have a monopoly, they get very rich. Just ask Pablo Escobar about that. I know he's dead, but you get my point. So they make all the money. They hire more thugs. They solve their disputes with guns and violence and crime, and they do it in the streets, and people die. So that's where this comes from. It's not like Mexico, they're inherently more violent than anybody else. No, it's the political circumstance that is leading to this. So if you legalize, tax, and regulate drugs, you put the cartels out of business. If you legalize, tax, and regulate drugs federally in the U.S., you know what happens? Small businesses pop up and sell the product. Small farms pop up and grow the product. Big farms, big business does it. So why would you not want to go in that direction? And when there's a dispute, you go to court and you wear suits and ties and you figure it out. And when there's a dispute now, with it being illegal, you shoot people in the street. That's what happens. So we know what the answer is, but we're not fixing it. And now it's gotten to the point where it's potentially the case that Mexico is the second deadliest country with intentional deaths, directly behind Syria, which is engaged in a civil war. So that means, you know who they leapfrogged, by the way? Afghanistan. That's wild, dude. That is fucking wild. 23,000 intentional homicides. By the way, the U.S. has 32,000 gun deaths a year. So we actually have more gun deaths than them, but the thing is, there's a lot of them that are accidents and suicides, so the intentional homicide rate is not as high as Mexico's. But what a disaster this is. End the drug war, end it now, fix these problems. If you do that, you literally save lives.